The piano that David and I were privileged to use for this recording of Winterreise is courtesy of the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music, and it's a beautiful modern replica of an 1817 instrument by Anton Graf. Graf was probably the most famous maker in Vienna at the time, and he was the preferred maker of composers like Mendelssohn, Beethoven and Schubert. We know that Schubert played on a Graf, and in fact there's a famous contemporary picture of him playing for about 30 people on an instrument just like this one. It's slightly different to a modern piano, which some of you might be familiar with. The biggest difference is that all the strings are strung parallel, which gives it a very clear sound. But also inside the piano, it has what we call a Viennese action. And in the beginning of the 19th century, just like there are two operating systems in computers, Mac versus PC, there were two operating systems for pianos. One was the Viennese action, like this instrument, and the other one was the English action. The Viennese action became extinct around the beginning of the 20th century, but composers like Schubert and as late as Brahms used this piano. It was famed for its velocity, its neatness, its silvery tone, whereas the English action, which became the modern action, is known for its power, its vocality, its sweetness. The most distinctive difference between this piano and a modern piano are the pedals. And this is what David and I have been experimenting with in our recording. Not just 3 pedals like on a modern piano, but rather this piano has 6. The modern sostenuto pedal, which most people are familiar with, is the second from the right. But what's beautiful for Schubert is that this instrument has 2 what we call moderators, which interpose felt between the hammers and the strings, and they create different soft effects. And one of the great discoveries for me as I was making this recording is I realized how much Schubert writes in pianissimo and triple P. And in fact, in one song, he writes mit dem pianissimo, which we know is this pedal, and that is what this sounds like. And the even softer effect sounds like this, almost like a harp. The other special effects include one pedal that operates what we call the bassoon stop, which puts parchment against the strings and it simulates the farty, rasping sound of a bassoon. And David and I used this effect to illustrate the cocks crowing in Der Frühlingstraum. There's also a shifting pedal that moves the keyboard left and right, and the hammers strike fewer strings. We call that today the unicorder effect. And the last and most dramatic effect is what they called in the 19th century the janissary stop. The janissaries were Turkish soldiers who went around with very, very loud instruments banging things. And this was all the rage in Vienna in the beginning of the 19th century. What it does is it operates a drum, a bell, and this wooden block also smashes down against the strings for a very dramatic effect. And we used it to illustrate the thunder and lightning in Der stürmische Morgen.